I'm ready. So, speaker, speaker, do it.
Good evening. My name is Mayor Mike Wickers, and this is the business meeting for the Cottonwood Heights City Council for December 13th, 2022. I have asked our council member for District 3, Sean Newell, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Councilmember Newell. Item 3.1 on our agenda tonight is an acceptance of financial statements. So I am going to have our Administrative and Fiscal Services Director, Scott Georges, come on up and start that process.
All right, I'm going to kind of start and then I'm going to invite a few other people up here in a moment. All right. So we have finished our financial statements for the year that ended June 30th, 2022. Our treasurer and financial reporting manager, Dave Muir, does the lion's share of putting this together. This was a very complicated year. We had 2 new bonds. If you remember back, we have our bond where we refunded our 2014 and 16 bonds and back in October of 2021. And then in June of 2022, we did our bond for our public works building. So having 2 new bonds added to this the set of financial statements really made it complex on us. And everything is, and going through that, we had to keep going through and making sure all the accounts were represented and everything. Doesn't mean that we had any issues. It was just complicated making sure that all that was accounted for there. So I need to put a strong congratulations to Dave, because he does the lion's share of putting this together. I do a lot of review of it, but Dave does the lion's share of putting these financial statements together. So I do want to recognize Dave for his efforts on that. If we move through these financial statements, and I'm showing them right now, we will get them posted tomorrow out onto our internet. There's a section under your government where you can go down and you can find the financial statements and the financial information, and that's where this is going to be located. But if you go down there on page VI, there is our certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. Now, this is the certificate for the prior financial reports that we put out a year ago. It takes a while for them to be reviewed and everything and gone through, but we received this just, wasn't it about a month ago, Dave? Something like that. And so we received this, and this goes specifically to Dave, as Dave is the one who puts this together and everything, and answers all the questions and everything that goes with it, and so on and so forth, to make sure that we are in compliance with all the things that go with that. So that's a huge thing. We've been getting this. Dave, do you know how many consecutive years is it now? 10 years. And so we've been getting it for 10 consecutive years. And Dave's been the author of these, all 10 of those financial statements. So that's a huge accomplishment, and he deserves a very big congratulations for that. In addition to that, after we move to this, we get up to our management reports, and then on page, I believe it's 7, this is where I'm gonna, nope, it's not 7. It's page 9 in our financial reports. We go up to our auditor's report, and I'm going to turn some time over right now to Russell Olson, who's from our auditor, which is Larson and Company, and he's going to talk to you about their opinions on the audit and anything else that he feels that he wants to share with you on the audit at this point in time. So.
Thank you, Scott. Like you said, I'm Russell Olson with Larson and Company. It's become a little bit of a holiday tradition for me to come and be with you in December. I don't know how many years in a row I've been here, but, yeah, a lot of years. And so it's a little bit nostalgic with the snow and the Cottonwood Heights City Council. And anyway, I'm just going to quickly go over the reports that we issue as auditors. What you've got in front of you has a ton of information that we're not necessarily going to go over, but I'm just going to go over sort of what we do as auditors and the reports that we issue. So you should already be there on page 9. This is our audit report. It's what we would call a standard audit report, which means that the opinion is clean. It's easy to say that in the layman term of a clean audit, but the way we say it in our report is as follows. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities and each major fund and the aggregate remaining fund information of Cottonwood Heights as of June 30th, 2022, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof, and the respective budgetary comparisons for the general fund for the year ended June 30th, 2022, in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Now, isn't it easier to just say a clean opinion? The report goes on to talk a little bit about our audit standards that we follow to come to that conclusion, the responsibilities of city management, the responsibilities of the auditor, and on page 10, it goes on to reference and give a little information on different sections of the financial statements, namely the required supplementary information, the supplementary information, and then just other information that's included here. With that, I'm going to have you kind of skip over everything in between, like all the good stuff, and get to the end where there is another audit report, which is specific to the federal funds that the city received. And in this case, it was some of the ARPA funds from the government programs for COVID-19. The city received those funds.
And this starts on page 97 in the book.
Whenever you receive an amount of a certain amount of federal funds, we're required to come in and look at the internal controls of the city and how the controls affect how that money is spent, to make sure that the money is spent in the way it's supposed to be spent. And this is our report on that. And our opinion is that in all material respects, the city was compliant with the requirements of the grant, and the monies were spent appropriately. And then what follows that is the actual schedule of the expenditures of federal awards that you can see there on page 99. There was a little small grant from the Department of Justice, and then the ARPA money there that you can see. With that, does anybody have any questions on that particular binding? I'll call it a binding, because if not, then we'll go to the other little packet that you've got. What we have here are 2 reports and a letter. The first report that you're going to find there is the Government Auditing Standards Report. And what that is, anytime that we perform a government audit, we're required to look at your internal controls and look at your compliance with certain laws, regulations, grant requirements, the non-compliance with which could have a material effect on your financial statements. And then once we look at those and evaluate those things, then we determine what audit procedures we're going to follow to make sure that we're comfortable with our financial statement opinion that we've already gone over. So there's no opinion on this report. It's just in the indication of the kind of what we did in terms of government auditing standards. And then if you'll flip over to page 4, we call this the state compliance report. In Utah, the state auditor's office requires that we look specifically at those items listed and your compliance with those items. And in this case, we do issue an opinion, which is that, again, in all material respects, you are compliant with those requirements. So nothing to report, in other words. Now, the final letter here, we call communication to those charged with governance, or what we used to call the management letter. This is where, had we had any findings or any issues during the audit or had to correct any material mistakes, this is where we would disclose that and inform the interested parties of that. Luckily, we don't have anything that has to be reported here. And I'm not going to say that things are perfect, but they're in good enough order that we don't need to report anything. And so that's the final page of this letter. You can see there the schedule of findings for the current and prior year. And there aren't any. So that's pretty cool. And I congratulate Dave for the certificate of achievement that Scott talked about. It is a lot of work. It is sometimes challenging to make these things balance, and with those 2 new bonds and making it all balance, it was see, accountants get warm fuzzies when things balance, and it took a little extra time this year to get those warm fuzzies, but they came. So good job, Dave. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay.
I just want to thank Scott Burgess and David Muir for the, when we went through this, I'm on the audit committee and had an opportunity to be able to see the warm fuzzies happening. And I know it takes a lot to get excited about these numbers, but they really mean a lot to our city. And to be able to see how well that this has been done for years, it's very encouraging to see a city that is really managed the way it is. And thanks so much for this.
Thank you again. We I sit on that audit committee as well, and I actually asked Russell the question, how, is it common, uncommon to have no findings, to have, a report clean like this? And he said it's not uncommon to not find things. So it's we're not we're not unique in some respects, but we are that we made good progress, and that we're not needing any findings. I didn't explain that very well at all, but
Oh, that's good.
anyway, that's all right. So anyway, thank you. Do you have more, Scott?
Just one
Okay.
quick thing. If you go to page 31 in the big thick book, page 31 and 33 are my 2 favorite reports in the book. If you want to go for a quick, high level, clip notes version of what happened during the year, those are the 2 pages to go on. And page 31 shows, I really like where the fund balances are down here, because you can kind of see where our fund balances are and what they're there for. So you can see in our, in our debt service fund, we have $586,000 on deposit, happens to be at US Bank, that's in preparation for bond payments in the future. We have $7,398,000 that's on June 30th anyhow, was in deposit, ready for the Public Works building to be built and stuff. We have, these are funds in different, there are different funds that we have. $3,485,000 in our capital improvement fund, getting ready to be rebudgeted, as we've talked about rebudgeting, and we did that on November 1st. And in our general fund, this is our unassigned number, and I know Councilman Bracken is always saying, well, how much can we spend out of that? That's a question I often get from him. So I kind of broke it down here. So we started the year with just under $8 million of fund balance. We brought in revenues of about $26.5 million here. And it doesn't want to highlight, of course. And then we had expenditures of just under $19 million. We had transfers out, and this is just of our general fund, of $6,365,000. That brings us down to $9,327,000 of fund balance. Of that, we need to keep in balance $1 million, almost $600,000 for the 5% required by the state and the 1% that we, in addition, keep for our city, do our city ordinances. And then we have a $660,000 compensated absences. And technically there's 25,000 that we've prepaid for things for the current year, but that's kind of minuscule in the whole scheme of this. So there's $7,067,000 available for appropriation as of June 30th of 2022. So that's kind of how our fund balances in the general fund break down, and everything. And I know that that's a question that Councilman Bracken often asks, so I wanted to address that. So any other questions that anybody may have?
No.
Oh, yes, you're talking right up here. So with our 2014 and 2016 bonds, they're not fully paid off right now. There are call dates associated with them of when they can be called. So what happened is we still owe the money on those bonds. They're not callable until, is it July of 2024, I believe? I 24 or 25, one of those 2 years. And so we have on balance in an escrow fund that's held by US Bank that we can't access $13,642,000. And that's specifically there to utilize to pay those off when that date comes. And they're in financial instruments that are guaranteed that will have this, so we don't have to come up with additional monies and so on and so forth. At that point in time, those bonds will be retired, and then our net amount of bonds outstanding will drop by roughly, 10-12 million dollars, right in that range. And so they're still there. We still have to, if you will, make payments on them, but a lot of the payment is coming from this escrow fund until that point in time. So kind of a unique thing for this year.
And those expire, you said July of 24? 25.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And those are the bonds associated with the city hall
Yes.
project, yeah.
And from thereafter, we will be paying our quote refunding bond that we entered into in October of 2021. We actually save about $85,000 annually on the new bond by doing that. And so just kind of the dynamics of how that goes.
Great. Well, thank you, Scott. So let me echo what Councilmember Peterson said. We're extremely grateful to Dave and to yourself, and for not just the hours of work that you put in, but the expertise that you bring. And we see that in the awards that you're given, and for getting a clean audit. And so we just we're grateful. The city doesn't work if we don't pay our bills and do the things we're supposed to fiscally. So thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I would echo, we appreciate that. Dave's been with us since beginning the 10 years of history with the various reports on our budget reporting. I'm glad that you continue and you have that same vision.
Mhm.
But that work he's been diligent at it for years. So you can come once a year and get kudos and then go back to doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, item 4.0 is our monthly council committee reports. And so at this point, I'm going to begin with Council Member Scott Bracken from District 2.
Oh, no, that's a complete surprise. So I was just thinking that. With my December's easier. We CH2 puts things off until January. Word does as well. That budget was approved as we had discussed the last time. There was a fee increase that will go into effect next year. The youth council has still been meeting. This last meeting we had was actually, we attended the SpongeBob SquarePants from at Brighton High School. We have a number of the kids that were involved with that, and the rest of us went and watched that. The only other thing that sums up kind of what's going on there. In response to a couple of questions and things that I've heard, I would just like to say I think we all take our jobs and our responsibilities as elected officials very seriously. One of the things that comes up many times is, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And I think we have an obligation on our part to make sure that we have answers for that. Those were brought up a little earlier in the meeting. I need to be able to answer constituents when they come in to say that. And so it's incumbent upon us to, when someone comes to us with a comment or a complaint, to take it under advisement, go in and ask staff or the rest of the council or someone that knows or could know the answer, study those out so that we can go back to the citizen or whoever had the comment or the complaint or the experience and answer them honestly and truthfully and transparently so that they know what's going on. It may not always be the answer that they want. That's something that I have tried to do. And sometimes that can be challenging to just not. We all kind of want to fix everything right now, but certainly with years of experience, from Chief Russo being told, be careful doing that, because if you do it wrong, we'll be creating problems. But I do want to commit to my continued study and to do all that research so that we can make good decisions as a council going forward. I think that's kind of the core of what it means to be an elected.
Thank you, Councilmember Bracken. Let's go to our council member from District 4, Councilmember Ellen Burrell.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, let's see, in the last month, I have.
Apparently you only get the
Oh,
second
man, that's
time.
really short. So I continue to work with my council colleagues, city staff, and other contacts around Salt Lake County related to our final EIS that UDOT is now cruising toward their record of decision sometime next year, probably in the first quarter. And I'll be meeting with the Salt Lake County mayor this week, wanting to talk to she and her deputy mayor about the foothill areas of Salt Lake County, including District 4, and work with them related to the vision for improved transit and great mobility for all users. And I'm also I went to the Granite Community Council meeting the other night. I believe it's really important to know your neighbors. And so I have kept up a pretty good rapport with them over the last 18 months. I also had the great pleasure of attending the Top of the World LDS Ward put on an astounding program the other night. I was invited to attend. It was called The Sound of Christmas. And it bowled me over the level of talent and devotion that each of the numerous performers made. So I have a all new appreciation for my neighbors that live just north of me there in District 4. I also have been studying very intently, along with my council colleagues, the SLEDS ordinance, of course, our sensitive lands evaluation ordinance that helps with the development process. And I think everybody knows that we're trying to come to a conclusion on that in hopefully certainly the first quarter of next year. And I'm really excited about the great direction that the city staff has taken on that. And I think it's going to be a real continuing strengthening to protect our sensitive lands and yet also allow appropriate development. I also want to really commend Ben Hill and the CHRC on the wonderful Skate with Santa. The other day, I was over at the CHRC for it was on a Friday, for their 2-hour Skate with Santa, free skating for children. And it was just so well put together. That was a really joyful experience. A lot of happy things happening and happy holidays to everybody in Cottonwood Heights.
Thank you, Councilmember Burrell. Let's go to District 3 and Councilmember Sean Newell.
Great. I don't have an awful lot, so I'm going to follow the advice of a friend of mine about the 4 Bs. Be brief, brother, be brief. So I mean, the 4 Bs, I'm sorry. 5 Bs? Was that 5 Bs? Well, see, I got Cs, so I don't know what the Bs are. So first thing I wanted to talk about is our Arts Council. Just let everybody know that the Arts Council, we're looking for people to participate and we're accepting applications right now. The Arts Council does great work for our city and we appreciate folks coming out and participating and being a part of that great work. There's a number of wonderful activities that are planned for over the next year. So we're looking for people to come out and participate and to actually help design those programs. So please think about that, consider it. And you can reach out to Ann. Yeah. Can I do you put 2, Paula? Yeah. Reach out to Ann here at the city and she can get you that information. The other thing that I'm working on is from my background where my professional life is safety. And I'm fortunate to have such a great public works department, city manager, staff here, and fellow council people that have the same mindset that we're going to make our city a safer place. We have to do it in small increments and do it where we can. And I want to include our fire and law enforcement as well. I don't want to get skipped out and be in trouble with you guys. But it's really important that we have safety as a priority for us, for our city and our residents. And this is something that we're going to continue to look at. And it's an exciting place for me to be in. We had a great turnout for our mini shakeout through our emergency planning this year. And that and the CERT program or activities that our community members can get involved with. Last month I spoke about the neighborhood watch. That's another activity we can get involved with as residents and be able to work together and really get to know your neighbors, which is really important for us as a community. The only other thing that I had was that we continue some very important conversations through our legislative committee. We attend the Utah League of Cities and Towns meetings. And there's a lot of topics there that really will impact our community at some point in time. And we're able to vet those and to give a piece of our mind. Our city manager, Tim Tingy, helps educate me on a lot of the things that we encounter in those meetings. And it is really encouraging to know that we have an entity that we're partnered with that does such great work.
Thank you, Councilmember Newell. So last but not least, our District 1 Councilmember Doug Peterson.
Thanks, Mayor. 5, Sean.
It was
I think
5.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
we just had the auditor here too. He was keeping track of that. But
I'm not an accountant.
first of all, I want to say what a joy it is to be able to work with the council and the mayor. It is wonderful opportunity. It's been a very good year. They're kind of newbies, but Scott and I allowed them to come in and bring that new blood into the city. But no, they've been amazing to work with. I've really enjoyed this year. On the Business Association, I need to put out a plug. The Business Association with Hope Zitting, anyway, sorry, Hope, if you're listening. Uh, They are planning Sub for Santa, and a lot of that has been done already for 6 families. And so grateful for the work that the Business Association does and the way that they go about promoting business in our city, which is vital to running a city, to have these wonderful businesses within the city. Had the opportunity to meet with our wrap up for mosquito abatement board last night, and I did congratulate them again on eradicating all the mosquitoes. Right now, I haven't had any complaints about mosquitoes in about 2 months. So they are doing their job and doing it very well. But another great group of people to work with. Had the opportunity today to be part of the audit committee, and again for Dave Muir and Scott Jurgis, what a team we have. Anybody that could look at numbers consistently for that many hours a day, you have to tip your hat to them. I'm so grateful that they love doing that. And other than the mental health that we have to go through for them every year, no, I'm kidding. But they do an amazing job. I'm grateful for them. I talked to the Parks Trails. I work with the Parks Trails and Open Space and Anzac Park. They have not opened the pickleball/tennis courts. I know that's going to break a lot of hearts, especially after the last couple of days, but that will need to wait till March. So that's been a big part of this summer's work. Of course, we've got every day have the opportunity to work with constituents within my city. I'm grateful for Matt Ship and the help on the fence with Tim and Matt to get a fence repaired on Highland Drive going south from Bengal. And the many things that we have as assistants that help us on the council to be able to get things done. I'm so grateful for them. But I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season. I look forward to this upcoming year, but we have a lot of things going on. So Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Councilmember Peterson. I'll just echo like I do every month, how fortunate we are for these 4 council members that care so much about our city and the time that they expend with it. Not very much anyway. Let me tell you what I want to speak about for just a minute today. So a few months ago, I was appointed to the board of directors for the Salt Lake County Board of Health. The Board of Health meets monthly. And so I attend a meeting every month. I wanted to give you a little bit of process about what happens in these meetings. So one of the first things that the board does is we hear from Angela Dunn, who is the executive director. You probably have heard that name. She became famous over a 18-month period. We waited for her weekly updates on COVID numbers, and so she became more of a public figure for a while. But she is a very, very talented executive director. I actually give her a lot of credit. Unbelievably kind, and I've really enjoyed getting to know her. One of the things that she does in these meetings is she'll start with talking about the numbers for the past month that have come out from the flu, from RSV, COVID, and monkeypox. Other than monkeypox, this last time was the first time that has slowed down. The numbers have actually gone down than up. Yeah, she calls it that, so I'm okay calling it if she does. And then, but the numbers for flu, RSV, and COVID are spiking, are going up, but that's obviously related to the time of year. Anyway, another of the things that she does, she reports on the monthly numbers from all of the county-owned health facilities and how many people are there and how those things are going. And then she goes into miscellaneous items through the department members that report to her. Every month, the board receives training. You think about who sits on the board. A couple of us are mayors. There's a businessman that owns some restaurants and bars. One of the things that the Board of Health does is enforcement, and so if somebody violates Board of Health rules or bylaws, they can lose a license, and so those will actually come before the Board of Health in front of a committee. But so we hear every month we have a training to teach us as a board more about all of the individual departments within the Board of Health. And then the last thing we do is we operate as an oversight, board. We vote and we approve a budget that then gets approved by the county council. But we act as oversight in trying to help determine that they're operating how they should be. So I thought that might be interesting to learn a little bit more about one of the things that I do as the mayor. Okay. Item 5.0 on our agenda is a citizen comment period. I do not see anything that we need to submit, Tim, on the.
No.
It looks like we do have a hand up. So let's, if we could, Paula, let's make Mike Hansen available.
Can you hear me? Hello,
Yes.
hello.
Hi, Mike.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I was gonna come up, but I've been shoveling snow and wanted to say hello to you all. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And this is kind of a time when I have a lot of gratitude in my heart, and I want to just share a couple things. Number one would be I need to say thank you. From a few months ago, Riley Pilgrim was able to get the crew at Station 116 to come and do a little first responder demonstration for our adult special needs activity group one night. And they showed up in a parking lot with their truck and lights and siren and posed for pictures and asked or answered a ton of crazy questions. And these are the things that we really thrive on in our community. And I think it's really nice to do that. Chief Russo has also helped with that in years past. We're kind of switching back and forth, but this year it was for Riley. And really quick, we've had the opportunity this month on 2 occasions to rent to the community room. And I want to say thank you for the fact that we have this, that it's there for us. The first one was for a great celebration for my wife, Shelley, who was kind of in charge of her work Christmas party. And we had a great time. Perfect event. People commented on how beautiful the setting was. And then this Saturday evening, one of my dear friends, one of my closest friends, a Brighton alum from 1979, unexpectedly passed away from a brain aneurysm, and we held a celebration of life. And the reason why I'm sharing this is that if it wasn't for Ann Etchell and Sandy to facilitate us on both of those times and how great and professional they were, things would have been a whole lot different in both those occasions. And I think they need to have a thanks. We did our darndest to clean everything up and make sure we left it better than we used it, but still the same. Everybody's comments that visits our city hall and participates in that room has nothing bad to say about it. It's all good. And so I just want to express my thanks and my gratitude, and again, wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that and want to echo both of those sentiments. We have amazing staff who help pull things off. We have an amazing room for our community that, and if you don't know, it can be rented out as long as it's open on your specific date. But yeah, thank you, Mike. I really appreciate that. And I don't see anyone else online and here in person. So at this point, I'll close the citizen comment period. We have 3 legislative items to consider this evening, beginning with consideration of ordinance 390, amending code section 11.16.010 regarding speed designations on certain roadways. We discussed this item a little bit earlier in our work session. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 390.
Mayor, I'll move to approve ordinance 390.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve from Councilmember Peterson, a second from Councilmember Burrell. Final questions, comments?
No, I had expressed some concern with this. After actually seeing the details, the change is fairly minor, strike out and allowing the transportation engineer to move speed limits on a street off of something that may be just set by the state. But my reservations are calmed by Part B of this notices that those changes are only effective once the engineer has made an investigation and determined that that's something that's reasonable, that I just had these visions of speed limit changes randomly, much cause or due diligence. And so the due diligence in there, then I don't see the need to restrict ourselves otherwise.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Bracken. Okay, I will now call for the vote. Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Item 6.2 is consideration of ordinance 391, approving the project area plan for the town center at 2300 East Fort Union Community Reinvestment Area. We also had the opportunity to discuss this item in our work session and in our CDRA meeting earlier. Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 391.
I motion to approve ordinance 391.
I'll second.
A motion to approve from Councilmember Burrell and a second from Councilmember Newell. Final questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Okay, our last legislative item for this evening is item 6.3, consideration of resolution 2022-64, approving a consulting agreement with Bowen Collins and Associates, Inc. for design services. We also had the opportunity to discuss this item earlier in our work session. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve resolution 2022-64.
I'll second that, Mayor.
A motion to approve from Councilmember Bracken and a second from Councilmember Peterson. Final questions, comments? I will now call for a vote. Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Okay, we do not have a consent calendar to approve this evening, so at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
And I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.